What up, my salty witch? Sorry, I just had to do something weird for the thing. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this very interesting, I don't know, much anticipated on my part episode of the Wayward Dragons podcast. I say that because I have mistaken like the past 3 or 4 recordings for this episode.
Yeah.
So,
It's okay. We're gonna.
Yeah.
It's all right. You're fine. It's all right. I went to my chiropractic appointment on the wrong day, so you're fine. You're cool.
Life is so much just in general.
Oh yeah.
I'm just glad we remember we record when we do record.
Yeah.
And
well, that's what I told you. Let's have a set time.
If it wasn't for calendars, I don't think we would.
Because if it wasn't a set time, I think we'd be fucked.
Yep.
So I eventually looked at you was like, set time. Yes.
But I am one of your 2 hosts, and the other voice is obviously the other host.
Yes.
I'm Johnny, and that's Kelsey.
Yes. And welcome to this episode. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about salt. Because salt is a big part, I wouldn't say big part, but it's a significant part of any practice, no matter what you use it for. So I figured after we talked about which are you, I thought it was appropriate so that we talk about salt and the different uses of salt, because different salts mean different things, just like anything else. So, yeah. Do we have anything to cover before we begin? Oh, I got burp again.
Nope. I can't think of anything. If you're hearing this, obviously you lived through the eclipse and the apocalypse and all that.
The world didn't end for like the 10th time.
If not, then we're recording this for nothing.
Yeah. True. I mean, hey, you know what? We survived Y2K and when the Mayans thought the world was gonna end. So I mean,
well, that was just when the clock ran.
Yeah.
And we survived. Look, we have survived as millennials.
Yes.
I would say this. As millennials in the United States, we have survived so many economic collapses or near economic collapses, recessions, near world ending events, once in a generation, once in a lifetime events that, you see every 100 years or so. Yeah. And they all just like compiled all together for us.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. Yeah. So like I said, today we're going to talk about salt and salt properties. We're going to kind of go into a little bit of history, some uses, kind of like folk magic uses, and then we'll get into the different types of salt. I'm only going to touch on a few, and I'm going to touch on the ones that I found, and then we'll get into something. So everyone's heard to throw salt over your shoulder for good luck, to prevent bad luck. Like when you spill salt over the table, throw it over your shoulder to prevent the devil or whatever. But salt has been a very important resource to our human life.
See, that's the reason. The reason why you throw it over your shoulder to avoid the devil. I don't know if you're aware of this, but it's because the devil actually has really high blood pressure, and so he's not allowed to have a lot of salt, so he has to avoid it.
Ironically, we're going to get into something like that here in a minute, which I thought was kind of funny when I found it. I found this information from a couple of different websites. The websites are basically based in the UK. But salt has been a very important resource for human life for a very long time. That's how we preserved our food and stuff. That's how we made it, was through salt. To harvest salt was a very labor-intensive job. This made it a very valuable commodity. Rome used to pay their soldiers in salt That's how we got the word salary, because the root of the word comes from the Latin root word for salt. Um,
Well, and that's where the phrase "someone being worth their weight in
yeah,
salt" is from.
yeah. Um, and slowly over time, salt began to find its way into medical, physical, and spiritual practices just across the world. In a lot of places, it's kind of for the same thing. And just like over time, traditions have changed kind of. They're still kind of the same. You can find similar uses for salt in different cultures, but they're kind of the same. So in parts of Germany, Normandy, and Scotland, salt is used in or around the butter churn to keep witches from souring the milk or harming the cow in which the cream came from. An Irish folk remedy for someone who's been fairy struck. I'm not real sure what that means. Includes the use of salt in saying the Lord's Prayer. There's very similar stories coming from Bavaria and the Ukraine to determine if a child's bewitched by doing the same thing, salt in the Lord's Prayer. Egyptian caravans setting out on a journey across the desert used to perform a ritual to ensure they were protected from evil spirits by putting salt on the hot coals of their fire. And I mean, over time, salts maintain its uses, but in a more modern sense, like throwing it over your shoulder for the devil. Um, like if someone spills salt at the dinner table, it means a violent family quarrel is about to happen. It is considered, I did not know this, it is considered bad luck to lend out salt. Like if your neighbor comes over asking for it, it's bad to lend it out to them. In Because there's a feud that could happen between the borrower and the lender. And if you do have to borrow salt,
That
what?
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
I think you were about to say what, or I think I was about to say what you were saying.
If you do borrow salt, you need to pay it back in sugar or molasses.
Okay, that's not what I was going to say. Uh, so typically when there's an exchange like that, and this is like with knives and like atomies and stuff, is if you give something like that, or if you give something like this, that could have a negative thing if you're just loaning it out. If you give something small in return, even if it's like just a couple of cents,
Yeah.
because you're technically purchasing it and not uh, being given it or being loaned it.
Yeah. In parts of England and Scotland, it's seen as bad luck because the person borrowing it can use it as a magical link to you to do possibly harmful stuff to you. So, um, this is where your blood pressure one gets a little funny. Um, and in some places, it's used to detect the presence of a witch. In the Ozarks, wherever that's at, it is believed that if a witch does not eat a lot of salt. So if you have somebody at your dinner complaining that the food is very salty, then you need to be a little suspicious of them because they could possibly be a witch. And I thought it was funny as I was writing it because I don't eat a lot of salt. Like I do, but I don't.
I don't like overly salty
And
food.
like if something's very salty, I my husband instantly knows the face I make. Like, "Ugh,
Yeah.
no, thank you." Like, and I just don't know if it's just because the food my grandmother and my mom made growing up just didn't have a lot of salt in it because everybody on that side of the family has high blood pressure, so we never really ate salt. So now as I've gotten older,
So
like,
coming from the south, uh, a lot of people in my family also have high blood pressure, but they also put way too much salt in some of their food
yeah,
because depending on how they're seasoning it. But no, it's definitely not just because of that. Because I had way too much salt in food growing up, and I'm like,
yeah,
no.
yeah. That was one of the things my grandma would complain about because her last time that she was in the hospital that I saw her, um, before COVID happened, was because of her high blood pressure. They had her on like a no salt, no salt food, and she would complain because she's like, I want salt in my food, and they'd be like, "Ma'am, you can't have the salt because of your high blood pressure." Um, which I always found was funny. Um, And bewitched cattle won't touch salt, which I thought was kind of weird. I did not know cows ate salt. Um, so now we have a little history. We're gonna kind of talk into different types of salt. So salt is an earth element, kind of based seasoning thing. Element,
Mineral,
mineral. Thank you. Um,
composite.
because it does come from the earth. Um, and we're going to talk about a couple different kinds. We're going to talk about how you can, some different ways that you can use it, and stuff like that. So the first one we're going to get into is just your generic table salt, and that is kind of the great all-purpose, because salt's mainly good for cleansing, but also creating a barrier. You know, like in Supernatural, like we're creating a protective barrier. And depending on what salt you use determines what also is accompanying that barrier. So table salt, no matter whether it's fine, coarse, kosher, super huge. I have really big like salt flakes that I use um for anything that I want to use, because I have like a pouch at my door. Um so yeah, it's the great all purpose. If you need to sub something in a spell or something, reach for your table salt. It's like the white candle when you don't have the colored candle type thing. Um
Hmm.
so next we're going to talk about sea salt. So that's good for purification, and it's going to help balance your emotions as well as cleansing. Um and then specifically Dead Sea salt. So this is salt that's coming from the Dead Sea, so near Christian Holy Land. Um, it is known to have um, more healing properties because it's the Holy Land. It's very popular to use in purification protective spells. If you're someone that is doing like self care and you do a lot of baths, this is a very good salt to add to your bath, because it's very good for people who are submerging themselves, which makes a lot of sense because of baptisms. Um, Next one we're going to talk about is Celtic sea salt. This is one I personally use in my house because it's a lot more mineral dense. It's obviously good for protection, and it attracts financial abundance. Um, Next, we're going to talk about pink Himalayan salt. I personally don't really use this in my house. This is up to you. Just like anything, there's a lot of fake stuff, so you have to be very aware of the salt that you buy, whether it's the pink Himalayan, the red salt, or the black lava salt. Just be very aware if you're using this for your practice. Just be very aware of your source. Um, so pink Himalayan salt, it protects relationships. Obviously, it's pink. It helps remove negative blockages, curses. You can use it to help attract love, romance, friendships. So if you're making like a love spell jar, whether that's for yourself or whatever you're using it for, this would kind of be something that you could add. Possibly, it's up to you. Um, I found a source that say it helps with out of body experiences. It's a highly vibrational energy mineral. It helps open the heart chakra, which makes a lot of sense because it's pink. And red and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, Next, we'll talk about Epsom salt. So Epsom salt is not technically a salt in our normal sense. It's technically magnesium sulfate. So if you are someone who uses baths as kind of part of your ritual, um, it wouldn't hurt to put some of that in there. It's going to help kind of detox you, purify. But it's all, I mean, it's Epsom salt, it's not real salt. So it's just going to help you relax, honestly. Um, Next one we're going to talk about is red salt. This is one of two that come from Hawaii. It's like it's red owl something. It looks like algae. The word. Um, but in Hawaii, it's traditionally used in healing rituals and ceremonies to help purify and cleanse their tools and canoes. It's used for home protection, block negative energies, help with love, passion, and it helps with reversal. So if you're sending something back to the sender, um, black lava salt. So this is also from Hawaii as well, but um, it has activated volcanic charcoal. So yes, you have the salt, but now you also have the
Okay.
charcoal element into it. So now you have that part of in the salt as well. So you're absorbing negative things, whether that's energy, just or whatever you want to use it in that way for. Um, and then the last one that we're going to talk about is black salt, not black lava, black salt. This is something totally different. This is not something you consume. This is something you make, but this is not something you consume. And before I get into it, there is more than one way to do this. You have to do your research on what recipe feels comfortable for you. I make it different than other people, and other people make it different from me. So, do your research on what you want to have in your black salt because I'm going to talk about a recipe that I found. Well, kind of two. One's a recipe and the one's a method. Um, so black salt is a very powerful protective salt. I personally have this in a pouch near my front door that I make every couple of months because my husband goes in people's houses and I don't want him bringing home stuff. So there's a little
Yep.
pouch by the front door with some other stuff um, that I refresh every couple of months. So this is a very protective salt. It's going to help repel things, absorb negative energies, entities, well not entities, but whatever. Um and like I said, this is something you have to make for yourself. This is not something that you will consume. This is strictly for practice only. I personally save my incense ashes, and when it's time for me to refresh my bag, I get my salt flakes down. I grab some of my incense ash. I have a mortar and pestle I use, and I grind them together, and that's what I personally do. Everybody's different. I read where this lady, she has a special cast iron skillet that she uses, and the filings and like the stuff in the skillet, like she puts the salt in it because that's how you clean your cast iron is you put salt and you kind of scrub it because you don't use the normal tools. Um, that's how she uses hers is she puts it on the stove and kind of rubs it around her skillet, and as it's kind of shining the skillet, it's the salt is be turning black. And it's also iron, which is also a very good thing if you are trying to protect yourself from negative entities or you got some supernatural stuff going on. um and then one of the websites, witchysecrets.ou.uk, she has a whole list of herbs that she basically toasts the shit out of. Um,
Hmm.
Thyme, laurel, rosemary, parsley, basil, lemon peel, mugwort, and rue. She says to put all those into a pan and toast them over low heat until they are basically black. And then you're going
Okay.
to grind them up with pepper and salt, and then that's your black salt. I've seen some people who will dry out eggshells, take the membrane out of the eggshell, dry the eggshell out, and when they use incense and eggshell in their black salt, I've seen that a couple of times. Um, Again, this is something that is uniquely to you and your practice, what you feel comfortable doing. What I do is different
Yep.
from what Johnny does, and Johnny's different from me. So you can also go to your local medical physical store and or which supply store and see if they have it and buy it from them.
Just don't eat it.
Just do not eat it. Please do not eat this. There's a lot of different salts out there, and this is one that I'm like, please don't eat.
We cannot stress this enough.
Yeah, please don't eat that. And then one of the last ones I want to talk about before we get into like how you can use these is adding an herb, because I never saw this anywhere. Making like an herbal salt. So, because this is very popular with culinary, where you grind up an herb, mix it with a salt, kind of lay it out on a pan, and then you kind of dehydrate it really low in your oven until it gets nice and crispy and stuff. It's very popular for culinary people to make flavored herbal salts.
Yeah.
So that's another one I'll bring up, because at that point you have infinite amounts of possibilities, because not only do you have the salt in there, but you have the properties of the herb in there as well. So you have endless possibilities if you are a kitchen witch, and that is one of the things that you want to kind of do, because then at that point,
or if you want to get into alchemy,
yeah,
as well,
yeah. Because I kept seeing like red witch salt, and it was like salt with roses and hibiscus, and you kind of like grind the shit out of them and put them in a jar with all these oils. And I'm like, well, at that point, you have infinite amount of possibilities, because you can make whatever you want. You know, there's some people who make like money, like green rice, green salt for attracting money and stuff like that. I mean, you have infinite amount of possibilities with just herbs and other minerals. You have an infinite amount of possibilities that you can do, because this,
yep.
yeah, you've got the salt and you've got the properties of the magical properties of the whatever you put into it. Now we're going to talk about, well, what do you do with all this? What do you mainly use salt with? Well, salt, you mainly use salt as kind of a barrier for your space. So whether that's your home in general, or if that's um use a barrier for your practicing space, whatever that is. So if you're using a spell, using a spell, casting a spell, doing anything within your practice, you can put a salt barrier down if that's what you feel comfortable doing. Like I said, I have it attached to my front door because my husband goes in and out of people's houses, and he has brought stuff home before. I saw that you can use it in a witch's bottle, whatever that is. I do not know what that is. And the reason why I brought up the salt with mixing it with an herb is if you practice for a certain god or goddess, like they are your patron. Every god and goddess has different herbs, so you can mix whatever herbs associated with whatever goddess or god that is your patron. Mix it with the salt and put that on your altar. That's a possibility, if that's something you want to do. Home cleansing, you can mix the salt with your moon water and spray that around your house, if that's something that you do. Make moon water. Spell jars, self dedication rituals. I mean, there are infinite possibilities. Salt's been around for a hot minute. So I mean, you can kind of use it whatever you kind of want to. I weirdly, in a lot of like my like how to start witchcraft and stuff books that I have, not once does it mention salt.
That is weird.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. That Modern Guide to Witchcraft, she doesn't talk about that. Beginner's Guide to the Occult, we don't talk about that either. No, not in my Green Witch books either. So yeah, I had to do a lot of internet searching because there was nothing in the books that I owned that talked about it. It talked about all different herbs, but there was no salt. And I think that's kind of a very important thing because they talk about casting a circle, but that's about it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But that's all I have for this. Let's get into our cards, shall we?
Did you pull a cups?
You pulled the Four of Cups.
No, I said, did you pull
Oh,
cups?
no. I pulled a wand.
Oh.
What did you pull?
Actually, you know what would have been funny is if you pulled the sun because I pulled the moon.
I pulled the Queen of Wands. You pulled the sun. Let me.
No, I pulled the.
Oh, you pulled the moon. My bad. My bad.
Said it would be funny if you pulled the
Oh,
sun.
gotcha. Okay. I think I'm feeling down now. Okay. To my app here. Yeah, I pulled the Queen. For my deck, it's called the Queen of Candles. So, which is the Queen of Wands for me because the. Come on. Oh, that's very short. Okay. So, the Queen of Wands, keywords courage, magnetism, charisma, represents a feminine aspect in which is fierce, determined, and strong. Like the other wand suits, she's a natural leader whose courage in the face of adversity is an inspiration to all those around her. I inspire others through my passion and determination.
Okay.
Yeah, because needles and swords. What about you?
I pulled the moon in reverse.
Ooh, that's important to note.
The reverse moon indicates that you have been dealing with illusion, fear, and anxiety, and now the negative influence of those energies are subsiding. Where was that? You are working through your fears, anxieties, understanding the impact they have on your life, and how you can free yourself from such limiting beliefs. This is a truly liberating and transformational experience. You may try to bury these feelings even deeper within your subconscious so you can avoid your dark shadows. You may not be ready to face your emotions, pushing them to the side and pretending as if nothing is wrong. This strategy might work for a short time, but eventually you will need to resurface these emotions and deal with them.
This is a very interesting. That's very interesting together.
Yeah. I mean, because your queen was upright,
Yes.
right? So, I mean, being a representation of being upbeat, courageous, and determined, it's a matter of, with the two, I would say, pushing forward and making things happen. Don't let fear control your life, and don't let what has happened to you or what you're afraid could happen
Yes.
control you. Just keep pushing forward and overcome.
Yeah. And it's going to get scary because of all those emotions, but it's going to pass. This isn't the end. This isn't the end here.
Yeah, because everything is scary.
Oh.
That's just life. And you just gotta.
Yeah. You just got to keep on.
Push past it.
Yeah, you got to keep on going. Keep on going.
Keep on keeping on.
Yeah. Yes. That is exactly what you have to do. I think that's all we have for this episode.
Yep, I think that sums us up nicely.
Yes, so I hope everyone survived the eclipse. I hope everyone's okay. If not, when we did this for nothing. Um, the next episode, we will be talking. I will be talking about different types of auras. So what all the colors within your aura means, and all that nice jazz. And that is what.
So I have had, and I'll talk about this a little bit later than that. I don't know if you're aware of what your aura color is, but I know what my general aura color is,
Mm-mm.
and this has been, I've had many people reference the exact same color and everything else, which is really interesting. But we'll get into that on that
Yeah.
episode.
No. Nope.
I don't know if you want to see if you can try and figure out which yours is.
I can try, but I don't know how to do that. So
There are people you can contact that can do it, or you might be able to go to your local metaphysical store and find out.
yeah. Well, and part of my thing this year is I eventually want to get in contact with a Reiki healer, and do some cord cutting and all that nice jazz.
Yeah.
So, and that's part of like some Reiki healers thing is auras because it's all energy work.
Yep.
So that's part of my thing this year. Once we kind of slow down again because we're starting to ramp up at work. So, but yeah, so that's what we're gonna be talking about
Until next time.
next episode next time. So please rate, review, subscribe. Please tell a friend if we messed anything up or if you have a topic recommendation, book recommendation. Please email us at thewaywarddragons@gmail.com. So yeah, until next time.
I'm Johnny.
Kills.
I don't know
I
why.
was like, I don't know why you just saluted me. Bye.
Aye, Captain.